Okay.
Yeah.
So what does the onlining of 5G mean to people?
So you used a great example, which is autonomous vehicles. That latency and also the bandwidth is absolutely essential for a world of self-driving cars and taxis.
I don't think people understand the information that the cars will be able to process. It's not your car just figuring out where to go and what's in front of it. It will eventually know what that car is, who's in that car, who's in this car, have access to all of that information, right?
Yeah.
So because it has to make a judgment at some point. If there's a problem, which way do I swerve? Which way do I go to cause the least damage? It's kind of one of those, what is it, the trolley experiment, where you've got a trolley going down and it could kill 3 people this way,
right?
Or you could switch tracks and kill 1 person over there. What do you do?
Right.
It's got to crunch that kind of data if we're going to really, truly autonomous cars, right?
So one of the biggest debates in the industry right now amongst the technologists working on autonomous tech is how do we program the software to make those decisions? Who do we choose, to your point? If there's 2 children, 2 teenagers walking across the street, and 2 grandparents across the street, and one of the 2 groups is going to have to get hit, what's the decision to be made? Is that one built on potential economic output of the individuals? Is it built on our emotions about making those decisions? It's almost an impossible decision to make.
Is it impossible? That's why you don't really, you can't really judge people because it's a snap decision.
Right.
But this is a programmed decision.
It is a program. We lose millions of people who die through traffic accidents on an annual basis. Autonomous driving technology, 94% of those deaths are caused by human error.
Right.
So we can eliminate 94% of those worldwide deaths.
The lives it will save will be.
It's extraordinary. So while this is an incredibly complex ethical dilemma that we have to solve, and I have a theory about that, is that we may actually leave that to the AI to decide, because it's such a polarizing issue. And after all, one of the extraordinary things about artificial intelligence is you can feed it an incredible amount of information, and it will make a very accurate decision, but it can't tell you how it got there. It can consider 1,000 different variables and recognize patterns that humans just can't possibly understand and come to the correct conclusion. There's no way for us to understand why or how.
Unsettling.
It is for most people. How could we trust something when we don't understand the decision-making process that it went through? This is one of the very unique things about artificial intelligence. Back to the issue of the car, an average self-driving car will generate about 4,000 gigabytes of information a day. That's the equivalent of about 1,000 high-definition movies. 1,000.
Wow.
And the reason that data is so important, and this is why Tesla is such an extraordinary company, Tesla has driven about 2 billion miles on autopilot to date. 2 billion. Real miles on real roads, the cars driving by themselves. Very few people recognize how much Tesla has accomplished. The reason that data is so important is that data comes back in. It gets fed into Tesla's artificial intelligence algorithm, its autonomous driving tech, and it makes it smarter.
So, and is that all proprietary?
It is proprietary to Tesla.
So that makes them the difference between Google and Yahoo at the beginning stages, where
yes, they have an unbelievable moat. Waymo, the self-driving division of Google or Alphabet, depending on what we'd like to call them, has only driven about 16 million actual autonomous driving miles. 16 million versus Tesla's 2 billion. So having a 5G network obviously gives us that pipe to gain that critical, I don't care whether it's Tesla or anybody else, but we have to get that data back so we can make the AI smarter so we have less accidents, so that the AI never has to make that decision about who to hit.
So when you have 5G, because we're talking about, I talked to the former chairman of the board of GM, and he said GM's going to be making fleets by 2030. He said, we're not going to be an automaker as you understand it. He said, it'll be fleets of pods of whatever they are that will be connected to the system, and you'll call for one, blah, blah, blah. And he said, the highways will be much faster than they are now, and things will be much more organized. That's when all of this comes in. But when all of this comes in, you have to keep the guy who wants to drive his car himself off the road. Because I won't be able to merge with this traffic that is all really, done by AI. I can't navigate. I'll cause the problem. So what happens? How far away are we from that transition to where you're a problem, dude? You can't drive your car anymore.
I actually think that I think that will be a long way off. At least I think we've got a good 2 decades before we start having serious discussions about whether or not we can drive a car.
And how long before the whole country, you were talking about the lily pads, before the whole country is connected? Because part of the problem is you go out into the center of the country, some of that stuff's not even mapped. You know what I mean? Some of that.
Yeah.
So how long before a self-driving car could be used throughout the country?
Yeah, I think, the reality is that when you're building out these networks, it's about percentage of population covered. So there, I talk to people who write in to me or come up and ask me and say, hey, Jeff, I don't even have 4G. I live in a small town of 736 people, and we're still on 3G.
Right.
And so the 4G network coverage, believe it or not, is still being built out in some rural areas, not just in the U.S., but around the world. Within 3 years, we will have the vast majority, and when I say vast majority...
How long?
Within 3 years, we will have the vast majority of the U.S. population covered by 5G wireless networks.
Without China? Technology, Chinese technology?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's a very large misunderstanding about the need for example, Huawei's equipment. Huawei's 5G wireless technology is loaded with U.S.-made semiconductors, the real intelligence, high-value products that actually make those products work. The U.S. doesn't focus on just making an antenna.
So who's giving us the bullcrap story then that we are so far behind, Huawei is way ahead, and we need this technology? Europe needs this technology.
It is. It's absolutely not true. There's 3 major vendors around the world that produce the physical equipment for 5G networks. That's Huawei, that's Nokia, Finnish company, and Ericsson, Swedish company. Those are the big 3. What I'm really talking about is the physical equipment, those transmitters, the antennas, a lot of the IT equipment that helps the 5G networks operate. But supplemented with that, there's U.S. products inside all of those pieces of equipment. Again, all those critical semiconductors. And on top of that, companies like Cisco and Juniper Networks provide, Infinera, another favorite of mine, provide the internet routing equipment that enables these 5G networks to operate. The moment that a signal hits a transmitter in a tower, That tower is connected to a fiber optic network. Take that signal off, you bring it onto a fiber optic network, you route it around the world wherever it needs to go, comes back up on a tower, and then connects to the other side of the line. So the U.S. is leading on 5G wireless technology in many regards.
Wow. Not the impression you would get.
No, exactly.
So how concerned are you, is this really even a concern, that with 5G, the Internet of Things comes alive, right? I can be in a store and somehow or another ask my refrigerator, what I have, what I need. I can ask what aisle ketchup is in the supermarket, because I'd have access to all of that data because of 5G can get to me quickly, right? With all of the data in all of our homes, everything in it, gathering information, how concerned are you with the idea that China could take that information and use that information, or anybody can take that information, our own government, to monitor and to manipulate?
It has already. That's the bad news. It was already determined that Huawei had taken data in the United States, so information that was routed through its routing equipment, routed that data to mainland China for analysis, and then routed it back to the destination that it was originally intended.
Wow.
And that was actually the impetus for current administration's banning of the use of Huawei's equipment in the United States. It is absolutely a national security concern. They've also done it on televisions as well. And that is frightening, because that's in our homes. I, as a technologist, am very careful about the brands that I buy. A very simple example, if we think about, Facebook just released a TV module, and the TV module has audio on it and a camera that it's going to use to, listen to our conversations and identify the members of our family and collect information, analyze what we talk about every day, and feed that into its massive engine.
Here's the problem, because I think for the West, Huxley was right. Orwell was right for the East. It's 1984 in China,
especially in the North, and for the Uyghurs.
Right.
Yeah, the Muslims.
Horrible.
Yeah, horrible.
But we're kind of just fat and happy, and we're being fed that. When I say to people, and tell me if you think this is wrong, when I say to people, look, you're going to have an idea. Let's say, you've had a conversation with your wife, you've had several different things that have been happening in your life, and you get up one morning and you're like, geez, I think we should just get on a plane and go to Hawaii. Those reservations most likely will already have been made, because AGI will say, you know what, I've been thinking about, or, I've been watching this, and I've already made these plans, and it would be the plans that you would make. Is that in the future?
Completely feasible,
okay.
and not 10 years away. The ability to do this will happen in the next few years, in fact. And what it will most likely appear as is a personalized digital assistant.
Yeah. Right.
That knows your preferences.
Knows you better than you know.
You know yourself.
Correct.
Exactly.
So when that happens, what's great about this is everything that the wealthy had. Somebody who is their personal assistant, knows, and thinking, and like, I got you covered on this. You can now have, most likely for free or for very low cost, in the future. So it's fantastic. But it's also, it knows you. Where is the beginning and end of free will? Is that my choice, or have I been kind of manipulated into that choice?
Of course.